Hello, everyone. My name is Lou,
I'm Katie.
and you're listening to Files from the Other Side. This week, we're opening up the files on
The Greenbriar Ghost.
the Greenbriar Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
repeat Ghost Justice!
Ghost Justice! The only time in American history in which a ghost testimony has been upheld in a court of law. So, and used to convict somebody. Actually, because, Morbid mentioned that there's, other ghost testimonies, but it was actually used for a conviction. So, Ghost
Yes.
Justice.
Almost a execution by law, but or wasn't it? Or life in prison? What was it?
It was so they would only do execution if everyone agreed on execution, and two people did not. So he was sentenced to life in a state prison.
Yeah. Interesting.
And yeah.
You want to tell us about the Greenbriar Ghost, Katie?
Yeah, let's get into it. So the Greenbriar Ghost, it's herself is Zona Keister Shoe, who died in 1897. And she appeared to her mother in ghostly form and was like, I was murdered. And her mom was like, what? Oh my God. So the real details are in 1895, 1896, Zona was having an affair with this older guy. I'm actually completely spacing on his name. This doesn't really have a ton of bearing on the story, but it gives some context. So
I think you give some context about Zona herself, which
yeah.
I think is
useful.
Yeah.
So she has an affair with this older man. I mean, it's the 1890s, right? So there's the older versus younger is kind of it's a little looser. It's a little faster and looser back in the day.
Yeah.
So she has an affair with this man, and they have a child together who dies very, very early on. I don't even think he was named according to all the stuff I listened to. And that super heartbreaking. I mean, apparently they were in love, so that sucks. And so then in 1896, there's this blacksmith who moves into town, Edward Shue, and he's apparently super hot and totally eligible bachelor. Zona and him, hottie toddy, Zona and him get married within 3 weeks of courtship or a month of courtship or something like that. And they're only married for 3 months before January 23rd, 1897. Edward goes to work at the smithy, and he stops in town and he asks a family, the Joneses. He asks Martha Jones for his son Andy to go over to their farm.
Yeah.
And check on his wife. She wasn't feeling well, collect some eggs. Apparently he went to the house 4 times too, being to ask him has he gone yet? Has he gone to check on my wife yet? Has he gone to check on my wife yet? Which is weird.
I think that's so odd. That's the first odd thing that occurred to me. It was why would you be insistent? Why wouldn't you go yourself?
Oh, why wouldn't you go yourself? Or why are you hounding? Yeah, if you're hounding these people to the point, why wouldn't you just go yourself? Sus thing number 1. If we're keeping score, 1. Uno. So, Andy does eventually go, and finds Zona in the middle of the floor, dead. Middle of the floor, dining. I love you. His dining room floor, dead as a doornail. And he runs back into town, talks to his mom about it. And Martha and Andy go to the smithy and get Edward, and then he goes back, and then he goes to the house. He's all distraught, and fucking the town coroner, Dr. Knapp, is called in. He gets there there has to be, I don't think it's a ton of time that's passed, but there is enough time that passed that Edward has moved her from the dining room up to their bedroom and dressed her for the funeral. Sus thing number 2, if we're keeping track, because at the time, the women of the town and or family do that. So
not only that, but he was so worried about her, and then he's so distraught, he didn't know something was coming. It's just all sus. It's bro,
what are we doing? Yeah, so he's fucking, he won't let the coroner do his job. Like, he won't, anytime,
Yeah, he's like arguing with them the whole time.
Arguing with him the whole time, like, not letting him anywhere near her neck. Like, he gets all fucking fucked up and, like, throws himself on the body at a couple points, I think, too, I heard in, like, some of the stories. And it was just, like, sus.
Number 3.
Sussing number 3. You fucking, yeah, you dress the bot. Anyway, sussing number 3, he's, like, not letting the coroner do his job. He props her neck up, so they have the funeral. They get the funeral going.
Okay.
He props her neck up with like a sheet and like other shit. He ties like this scarf around her neck too that like supposedly was her favorite scarf and she wanted to be buried with it, but also like, you've known her for 4 months, how do you know that?
That, and I heard in one case that she was like really fashionable and like she wouldn't have put a random ass scarf on her neck.
Yeah,
at her funeral.
At a high collar too, like a high collar with a scarf. Like,
yeah, she's a girl with knowledge of how things look and would not have done something so fashionably atrocious.
Yes.
We stand a queen who can wear a gown.
We stand a well-dressed queen. Like, we stand a queen who can wear a gown. Me and all my friends are queens that can wear gowns. So,
I'm more of a suit man, but you know.
But you're still, that's the man equivalent of a gown. Like, suits, suit and tie.
I want to show up one day with just like a vest, but like no bra, you know, like titties out a little bit, and then
little cleavage,
slacks, yeah,
little cleavage, little tasteful side boob, maybe if the vest is. I love it. I can't wait to see you in that.
Thank you.
Wear that for our hot date to my job.
Ooh,
if you ever get to come, because like I'm taking you.
I will, yes.
To the
I will
joint.
gladly go wherever there's food, to be honest. That's what vacation is for.
Well, I love popping cherries. And like, it was so exciting to like pop so many food cherries of yours in Oregon. So we're going to like keep doing that. I'm going to like make that like a goal every time we go on vacation together.
Down.
I'm like, we're going to pop food cherries of Skyler Louise's every time.
I enthusiastically consent.
Okay. So at the funeral, back to the matter at hand.
Yeah, sorry.
We always tangent ourselves. At the funeral, he won't let anybody near her. Like, he's again protective of her head, blah blah blah. Mary Jane, who's never liked him and like became estranged from Zona when they started pursuing this relationship.
Yeah,
was like, look, at something's up. Say it, because I think you're gonna say the same thing as me.
Mom cut her off. That was how estranged it became with Edward.
Yeah. Never went to the house. Fucking stopped talking to her. Like, the cut her off, the whole bit. So, she like knows something's wrong. So like, she's at the funerals. Like, after the funeral, after they get her like buried or whatever, she takes the sheet that like her head is being propped up with, and she's like, Edward, do you want this sheet back? And he's like annoyed that she would even fucking ask. He's like, no. So she's like, well, we're at like 5 or 6 at this point, because his behavior during the coronation, autopsy, the attempted autopsy.
Autopsy. I'm just loving a coronation.
Poor girl. During the coronation, autopsy is what a coroner performs. Anyway.
Sorry.
Not sorry. The mom takes this, times are tough. Fucking takes the bed sheets. She's like, I'm not wasting this fucking linen. Like, let's fucking get some bed sheets for my house. So she apparently, like, when she washes it, like, blood comes, like, it turns like washes out like blood or something like that. Yeah. It turns like pink, and it's like crazy. So she's like, something the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And then she starts seeing visions of her daughter.
Yes.
Her daughter appears for 4 nights, and across those 4 nights, Mary Jane is able to glean the fact that Zona was murdered by being strangled to death by a neck snapping. So her fucking neck was broken between the first and second vertebrae, which fucking Mary Jane tells everybody after these visions. She's like, my daughter was murdered her neck is broken in this place. Preston, the town prosecutor, hears about this and he's like, that's crazy. Because, like, apparently the Heasters are, like, respectable members of the community. Like, Mary Jane Heaster is, like, not somebody who would just make this shit up. So Preston's like, huh, that's weird. And he's like, talks to Dr. Knapp and he's like, like, should I entertain this? And Dr. Knapp's like, well, I didn't actually get to do an autopsy because her husband wouldn't let me. So yes, maybe you should. So they exhume her, find out that her neck is broken in exactly the places that Mary Jane said it would be. And then they take him to trial.
Finally.
It's like months later too. But anyways, so and then as we like mentioned, fucking at the beginning, he goes to trial and all this shit about his his past wives come out and all this, like, he's historically an abuser, and gets convicted. They put Mary Jane on that stand and she tells them what she fucking saw. And everyone's like, and again, his past of, like, he murdered his second wife. He was definitely abusive to his first wife.
It wasn't even his real name.
It wasn't. Oh, thank you. It wasn't even his real name. His real name was like Erasmus, and his nickname was Trout, which, I love. And Andrew on fucking Alien Theorism was like, yeah, because he's slippery.
That's hysterical.
So. I like I forget what the name of the hosts on Morbid are because I've actually never listened to Morbid before today, but what if it was like, it's because he smells bad.
Yeah,
that was funny too. But he
all around evil guy,
wife beater, murderer, and he gets sentenced liar also. They don't unanimously agree to give him the death sentence, so he gets life in state prison. He actually gets broken out a few years later, like an angry the mob like tries to break him out so they can lynch him.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Like, the farmers that foil that plot, farmers nearby that hear this plot going on, foil it. He stays in jail and then dies in jail of, like, tuberculosis or something like that. Something.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
Edward's gone.
And Mary Jane never recants her story. She sticks by it.
Recants the story that she saw the ghost of Zona.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I stand by that fact being, like, the number one of it being a real ghost story for me.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that. Okay, so there is the little tidbit. There's the little tidbit that in the newspaper the same day that her obituary is released, that there is actually a story of something very similar happening in 1826 in Campbelltown, Australia, where Frederick Fisher disappears. His neighbor says he moves back to England, and 4 months later, this guy Farley sees someone sitting on the fence by the creek. Sees Fisher sitting specifically, like, he's like, oh, that's somebody on the creek, so on the fence of the creek. Gets closer, it's Fisher, and he's pointing to the creek, and then he disappears. And Farley's like, oh, that's weird. Like, I'll tell the authorities. So he tells the authorities, and they find Fisher's body in the creek. But years later,
where the guy was pointing.
Yeah, where the guy was pointing. They find the fucking body in the creek, and but years later, Farley admits that he just witnessed the murder.
Yeah, he witnessed the murder and he was scared. He was scared and he didn't know what to do, so he Scooby-Dooed it.
Yeah, which is very clever, you know? Like,
yeah. I mean, keep yourself safe from a madman who probably saw you see the murder, I guess.
He would have already been murdered if he had seen.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that Farley would have already been murdered if yeah. But I think that, anyways. So that news story is a part of the newspaper when her obituary happens. I still believe that the ghost saw her, like, the ghost came to her, because she was right about where the injury was. Like, how you wouldn't be so specific as, like, the first and second vertebrae.
She would have to know a thing about a Noah thing. She would have to, like, be privy to that kind of information.
Right.
Which I just wouldn't expect of her. And, like, I remember hearing in one version of the story where when she saw the ghost, it depicted Edward strangling her or something like that. But it wasn't necessarily how it happened. They haven't figured out how it happened. Like, how her neck... it seems like she was strangled. They make a case for it, but then there's like other cases of her death being like related to a miscarriage, or when her neck was broken there was supposed to be blood everywhere, like coming out of her mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was talking to you about this before, and I think the blood may have been ghost blood. I don't know. I don't want to go that far, but I also do. The reason I say that is because like there are certain accounts of like blood being in places, but she would have had to have been moving around. Andy, the person who was supposed to check on her, saw pools of blood.
Yeah.
But then they weren't there when Zona and the when Dr. Knapp goes to find Zona. Even though she's redressed, he would have had to clean up so much blood. And
That's
how
true.
It's a lot of blood. And then in the vision that Mary saw her daughter told her there was blood in the corner.
Yeah, there was like blood on the doorknob
and
or
she
in a corner
found
or
it,
something. And she found the blood. Yeah.
And then there was another
in this
suggestion.
house that she's never been to before, mind.
Right.
Like, that's how estranged they were.
And then there was this other theory about like her neck being snapped and then like blood coming out her mouth, or the miscarriage. Like, I think there would be too much blood to clean up, and there would be evidence of blood being somewhere in that house, somewhere on Edward, somewhere else on Zona. She might have still been bleeding by the time they seen her. She might not have stopped yet, and like I don't know, because some of these specifics have been they're kind of like passed down through the community, passed down through family. Like my cat is going crazy right now, you guys. I'm so sorry. He is a hellion on a rampage.
Like, it's dark, feed me.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Feed me.
I'm trying to talk and he's like, shut the hell up. Anyways, like, I've found this unexplained mystery. Like, I love the rural small townness of it. Everyone knows everyone.
Yep.
But you know, some of these things have sources, some of these things have been embellished.
Sure.
But I still am like, there are things that don't add up, and like, I get why mom would do everything she could to convict Edward because she did love her child.
Yeah.
I get that. But why would a super religious woman do something like that?
Make up a ghost story to get somebody convicted? Like,
I mean, there's the point of, like, you know, everybody was interested in her story because it was unlike her to tell a ghost story. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh, no way this type of woman would tell a ghost story. How blasphemous. She did it anyways. And she died with the story, right? Like, not really, but...
She never recanted. She never was like, yo, I made it up. Like, she was like, nope, that fucking happened. It wasn't dreams. I was fully awake, and I fucking saw my daughter spin her head all the way around.
Yeah.
Because her neck was broken.
What's really funny is that I think in court, Edward at some point says he tries to, what's the word? Like, falsify her testimony because he says, oh, it's just dreams. But then I would have laughed so hard because, like, in this day and age of the paranormal, dreams are as real as almost like seeing an apparition. It's like you can still think that, like, seeing these dreams could still be supernatural. Like, and
she could be coming in dreams. Yeah.
From the information from her dreams, it wouldn't have mattered where she got the information because it was crazy that she got the information that way.
It was correct. The information was correct. Like, that's the thing that I keep coming back. Like, part of me wants to be like, maybe there was a fucking doctor in the family. Maybe somebody did get close enough to her to be like, you know what? I think she's fucking.
Yeah.
But like, being able to call the exact vertebrae. Ghost justice.
Ghost justice!
Ghost justice! Like, it's real. It's real, man. Like...
Yeah. You know, should we start then talking about justice in the tarot?
Not just ghost justice, but like justice in the tarot.
Justice in the tarot?
Cool. I like justice. I actually really like the justice card, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I like all the tarot cards.
I've been reading tarot for a while, and I haven't pulled justice for a lot of people.
I pull justice fairly often.
Interesting.
It's about balance, right? Which, as a recovering addict, I need all of. I need all the balance.
I actually don't think that's what I would say about justice.
Interesting.
I would say it's here. I'm going to give you what I think it is. And
you also read for other things. I pretty much exclusively read for self-care, and
True.
You read for like.
True.
No, so we're gonna have different approaches.
These are more archetypal. Hi, Channy. I hear you. Would you like to say hello to the audience and the guests at home? Have you had enough?
He needs to like monologue.
Should he make an appearance?
Probably.
Oh my gosh. If you're listening, I'm so sorry you can't see my cat. I'm going to pick him up for the audience at home. Watching on YouTube. You're just going to see a fat chonk. Come here, fat chonk. Come here. Yeah. Fat chonk.
Oh, buddy.
Fat chonk. Fat chonk.
Oh my god.
He's like, what the hell are you doing, Mom?
Mom, this is not what I was asking for.
Nope. But maybe you'll leave me alone now? I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
Sorry for that interruption again with the cats. You know what? We are just gonna. That's just gonna be a rolling bit for our podcast. Is when Channy screams.
I love a recurring joke.
Justice in the Tarot is about enforcing. It's about repaying or repairing. Mm-hmm. It's about deliberating, retribution, and cosmic law, of course. So it's like you can't have just humans' law. It's also cosmic law. But quite literally, I always say that it's delivering the king's justice, like presidential justice, army justice, cop justice type situations. You're literally interacting with the law or the laws of the universe in turn, right? Justice teaches us about injustice and corruption or dishonesty and revenge. That's how I best summarize my take on it. I think why I want to get into justice in the tarot is because I think, are very far removed from seeing actual justice in our law. So when I pair the law with justice, it is to literally talk about something very specific. I think when Katie talks about it in terms of self-care, it's you're no longer subject to necessarily your outside influencing.
It's
factors.
Cosmic. It's the cosmic justice.
It is cosmic, and that's going to be more subjective, I think. But I think to rely on justice as a card that literally talks about interacting with the law, we are able to expand our definitions of not only like justice in the tarot, but like any tarot card we can do that with, right? How exactly does this apply in real life for people? There are plenty of people, myself included, who have interacted with the law multiple times. And when I see a card that has that thematic element, I can't help but see a really unattainable archetype based on what I'm seeing on Earth right now. And I also like, it makes me think of like ecology and environmental justice as well, and how we are epically failing as a society our Earth, and our Earth is going to show us what that looks like. And I'm not saying that that's like
The water wars.
I'm not well, and I'm not saying that like there no one's doing nothing. I want to say that there are plenty of environmental activists who are doing the damnedest things. But the fact that is it's not playing over into policy. It's not playing over into paperwork. There's that's missing, like, because of the bureaucracy of it all, right? It's double-edged sword. We don't get to see fast enough returns for how much like headway we could be making in environmental justice, right? This is just one example.
Yeah. No, this is making my, like, I'm like, oh, it should be so illegal to build any buildings without gray water systems or fucking solar paneling. Like, that shit should straight up be illegal. Like, that is, like, we are nearly past the point of no return.
Yeah, and what's more concerning is, like, we're so preoccupied with destroying each other in wars than we can see what's in front of us, which is massive climate change that's catastrophic for human life and all life.
The bees.
I mean, the Earth will survive, but like,
in what capacity? What will it look like? I think we will be eliminated. Like, the Earth itself will, but like we might be eliminated as a species. Most species might be eliminated, and then it's gonna just be like.
I mean, it'll be like after the dinosaurs type shit.
Exactly. I was gonna say, like, it will be like it'll reset itself, but it might be fucking gnarly for a couple million years. Who knows?
If I'm to be reincarnated as a future dinosaur, I'm not gonna be mad.
You know what? I don't stan global warming now, but like I almost do with that thought. I would love to be reincarnated as a future dinosaur. Can I be a mermaid? Like, can that?
Hell yes, we're all mermaids now. Our consciousness just floats into mermaid land. That's what it is.
Didn't life start in the sea anyways? Like.
Anyways, that's my piece on justice in the tarot. But actually, what I want to do at the end of the reading is pull some tarot cards for you guys. So stick around, because we're gonna pull using justice to ask some questions. But we're gonna swing on over to our more philosophical conversation, which is usually based in questions. And so I'm just gonna read the slew of questions, and we may not stick to them necessarily, but this is how we get this will get our brain juices going. So these are the questions I had written down, but we're both gonna not talk about that. So but just so the audience knows, does morality have a place in the law? Is it advisable to get law involved with promotion of morality? Is it reasonable to base law on morality? How do we currently deal with this issue, and how should we transform law to change the way we deal with it? That's the questions.
Those are the things that we've been pondering for the last week.
And maybe forever.
And yeah, I mean, like, hardcore the last week, but probably forever, because both of us are like have always been into like the philosophy and the fucking. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I think it's mostly reasonable to like have like, you know, some laws based on morality, but also like whose morality? Whose morality is that's the big kicker. Like,
I think like law-based justice would say it is either the kings or the collectives, right? Because you get like some sort of collective, I'm not going to call it democracy, but maybe a collective decision making that makes it so that policy gets enacted, and that's just the standard, right? Or there's like the king's justice. He's just like, here's the law, everyone, and then everyone has to obey.
Yeah, because I'm divinely mandated, so
I'm the king. Why am I like this tonight?
I love you so much. Stay like this tonight. Because your king impressions are gonna be way better than mine. No, I'm honestly just like trying to formulate a thought. Like, because truly I'm like, I don't know. I think that we like, yeah, the collective, if the collective is like, I want the ideas about what justice is to come from the most marginalized and oppressed people. Because they're gonna know what's actually necessary on the ground. Like the fucking
Like,
the white man's just like it's just us. Like that's what justice means half the time in our fucking country.
the most underserved people are not getting justice in a societal level. So, like, trans women, disabled people, women of color, like, all of these people who are protected under these classes, right? But then are continually discriminated against without getting justice. And, like, doesn't feel good to live in a day and age where we can't have laws backing up our lives. And so I actually wanted to talk about something that recently happened in real life that falls right under the justice archetype, and that is the death of Marcellus Williams. He was a death row inmate in Missouri, and he was charged and convicted of murder, a murder that he did not commit, a murder that they found real DNA evidence that suggested he did not commit murder. And there was a Innocence Project thing about this too. One of their cases was Marcellus Williams. He was a poet. He was Islam, I believe, and he was not guilty but sentenced to death recently. And I just wanted to talk about this because this is to me what like is the opposite of the Greenbriar Ghost. Like, you know what I mean? It's very like, okay, so the Greenbriar Ghost, we can like sit with it as this like honky-dory story of this abuser who got due justice in a really funny way by a woman who, you know, sought revenge. But Marcellus Williams sat in prison for a long time, wrote a lot of poetry about how beautiful and just sublime, really, the world is, and still was sentenced to death. And I actually have pulled up on my laptop his last words. His last words that he submitted in his last statement.
Oh my god, am I gonna fucking cry?
Maybe. All praise be to Allah in every situation, with 3 explanation points. Yeah, it was a tragedy that should not have happened. A tragedy that, if it weren't for bureaucracy and corrupt people, corrupt systems, corrupt institutions, he would still be alive and he would be with his family. And I wanted to actually do another thing, which is read one of his poetry that I found online as well. So this is called the Net Zero / Morality Equation. Indeed, corruption... Sorry.
I just like that title. It's a cool title.
Yeah. Indeed, corruption does appear on the land and sea as a direct result of what hands have done clearly. Now a question is asked and put quite simply: is it possible to return to a state of emission-free? Behold the carbon footprint and its manifest distorted body, plaguing and distracting minds with self-inflicted anxiety, with a cognizant dissonance actuality, along with consumer insatiability. As the thirst for materialism borders on the global norm of insanity, processing by far from developed countries where bureaucracy hinders limits or even ignores necessary policy that addresses with substance better than life quality, countering with comprehensive plans to conquer greenhouse gas and fragile ecosystems, like carbon removal and low carbon technology, innovative and sustainable solar energy, capable of running power grids to produce conscientious electricity embraced by a forward-thinking industry. Those who partner with scholars, intellectuals, and activists to bring out enhanced efficiency, who will remind the leaders of geopolitics and geoeconomic blocs that 2050 net zero will be an impossibility or an unobtainable reality absent a serious commitment to uplift and assist the underdeveloped nations, people's lives, and productivity, and without the essential factor of a high standard of morality. I have chills. Where did we think we were gonna get here on this episode?
I did not know there were going to be tears in my eyes in this episode. I don't think anything spilled over, but that teared me up for sure. Whew. That's somebody who knew about the water wars, though. Tell you what.
Slides that in.
Hey, at least I keep the messaging consistent, you know?
For real. Well, I am going to do something I'm going to do something special while Katie calms down.
When Katie processes all of that information, oh my god. Like, can you hear the dial-up tone in my head? Like,
I know, right? Like I say, I have chills, and it's just because, like, I'd rather talk about it honestly than not talk about what justice is and isn't, and be like, you know, I could be really, like, flowery with it. I could be very, let's call the cops about it, but I'm sorry, a cab over here. We don't call the cops in this house. Fuck that. Also, you guys are gonna get some, tarot card ASMR. We're reading from Ask the Witch deck. So let me shuffle for you guys really quick. Okay. Shuffling. Oh, hold on. Skyler Louise. Okay, you guys, what I'm doing right now is I'm looking through my deck to find Justice, because we were going to ask Justice a couple questions about Justice, about the archetype. And those questions are simply, what should we keep in mind about Justice moving forward, especially considering everything we've talked about today? The Greenbriar Ghost, environmental justice, Marcellus Williams.
yeah.
What can we learn moving forward? Me and Katie, the audience, found her. Okay, so this is Justice right here. And then I'm going to lay her down.
Are those narwhals?
No, they're seals.
Seals.
One just has a sword. And
Okay,
one has a sword and one has the scales.
Word, yeah.
Just having those questions in mind, what are maybe like 2 cards we could get out of the deck thinking about Justice?
No. I know, is the only kind of justice cosmic justice? Is that the only one that we should be adhering to? Like, I don't...
So we got the Knight of Cups and
my
the
card.
5 of Cups.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I think what this is giving me is, like, we're going to have to romanticize justice a little bit in order to find what we want. Like, instead of thinking about it so rigidly, I feel like the 5 of Cups, and also like how we have been like looking at it in this last episode, is also with the 5 of Cups, like, cups are empty, cups are spilling, sort of a negative view on, like, how justice is served now.
But is still, like, that relates to, like, earlier, like, when we were talking about before, like, how, you know, I was like, well, justice was served, and I'm glad he fucking rotted in prison for the rest of his life. But we also were like, are prisons obsolete? Probably. Like, I mean, it's been many years since
I'm
I read.
abolition now. Like, I don't fuck with that shit.
But,
I have, like, family history and my own history with, like, the law, and it does not help being under the eyes of the law at all. Like, it does not help anything. And I also want to mention, like, Adrienne Marie Brown's book again, Emergent Strategy. That's what the Knight of Cups reminds me of right now, especially Adrienne Marie Brown. The Knight of Cups reminds me of that right now, because Emergent Strategy talks about transformative justice, and I think there are other books you can read on transformative justice as well, and it is simply another different sort of take, and it's not romanticized at all. I think it's practical as hell. I just think that it is, to a lot of people, unattainable, but it is not unattainable. If we can dream up something, we can make it happen.
Yeah. And I also think that the Knight of Cups struck me for justice, because like we should be going for the loftiest, most fair, it should be the most romanticized version of justice is the goal. We should be going for it, because if we fall, shoot for the moon, because if you fail you land among the stars. We should be going for the most universal cosmic form of justice. We'll never get there. We're not cosmic. I mean, we are and we aren't.
We're stardust.
We made of stardust, baby.
Yeah.
But humans are fallible, and just sort of, my name is Earl, when fucking Earl punches that dude in the face, and then all this fucked up shit comes out about him and stuff like that, and fucking Randy's karma doesn't have a fist, does it? I was like, did I lose my cool, but it actually worked out karmically for everybody involved, because I stood up for my friend, and then this guy got his shit blown up because he needed to, because he was a fucking prick.
Yeah, and then I see the Five of Cups seeing a very despair looking person, but seeing the fruits everywhere, that is it's not abolition now, yes, but it's not we're building from nothing. We're building from an abundant earth, if we can keep it that way. We're building from a collective of people who are gracious and kind. We shouldn't be focused so hard on institutionalizing people who need help. Most crime is petty crime. Petty crime that is poor people needing shit that they don't get or have or can't fathom having.
Yeah. Or it's literally just legalized slavery.
Yes.
That's also another end of the spectrum. On your thing about petty crime, I'm pretty sure that you get a felony charge if you steal $250 worth of things in Virginia.
Doesn't surprise me.
What? That makes you a felon? Fuck that noise.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That might be an out-of-date statistic. If I am wrong, slide into my DMs. Let me know I'm wrong. But last I heard, 1,000,000 years ago, that was a thing.
There's a lot of laws that are ridiculous. And Roe v. Wade, anyone? So ridiculous. Let's not go there. Actually, let's just wrap this episode up.
You know what? Let's everybody just let's
go home.
Let's all take a breath together. In through the nose.
Your nose was whistly, baby.
I just quit smoking cigarettes within the last 6 weeks, if you can't tell.
I smoke currently, so it's not like my inhale was probably any better. I'm just laughing at us who are crazy.
I didn't think we were going to solve for justice, but I didn't realize. It's real bleak out there, guys.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Files from the Other Side. You can find us on Instagram at Files from the Other Side, and share this podcast if you like it. Definitely subscribe to the pod, and
we'll see you on the other side.